Awesome, awesome. Well, first of all, thank you so much, Karen, for making sure this call happens. I want to welcome everybody to tonight's very informative call. This is about real estate investing, and you're going to hear some secrets tonight from two gentlemen that have been past presidents of GaREIA. So they have a lot of content they're going to share in 30 minutes. The first person we're going to introduce is going to tell you a little bit about himself, and then we'll introduce the second speaker. After that, both of them will share the topic tonight, which is some tips that are going to help you in your real estate investing career. So please, let's start with Mr. Ken Jordan. Please tell the audience a little bit about yourself and your investing experience, and then we'll introduce Don DeRosa.
I've been investing since the late 70s, almost exclusively into single-family homes and small multi-family situations. I am a buy and hold person. Most of the stuff that I've bought over time, I've either flat out flipped it or intentionally held it for lack of a better term, retirement income. There was a great time back in the 70s and 80s when I was a government bureaucrat. But since you can't be your own boss in the government, I decided to leave that particular situation under fair, honorable terms. And I have been free from government bureaucracy and a job since the late 80s, I think 1987 perhaps. So that's my claim to fame.
Awesome, and we appreciate you taking the time to be on this call tonight. And, of course, we honor the fact that you served as GaREIA president. That's a lot of commitment and effort. We're going to kind of like shift over a little bit and ask Don DeRosa if you would please share a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, again, my name is Don DeRosa. I'm also a past president of GaREIA. I've probably been investing since 1997. In fact, Mr. Jordan was one of my first boot camp. I attended the boot camp way back when, and he was one of my boot camp instructors. So I've known Ken a long time and has an enormous amount of information to share. So for myself, I've been investing again since 97. I'm also a national speaker. I travel around the country. I teach people how to buy and sell real estate, specifically using nowadays the iPad. Bought and sold well over 300 homes since 97. Still buy to this day, 3 to 4 a month. And pretty much I live here in Johns Creek, Georgia, with my wife and 3 children. That's me.
Awesome. I'm sorry, you were saying something?
I said that's me.
Awesome. And I had the pleasure of seeing both of you guys at the last boot camp and was really, really taken with the information that you shared. But what I'd like to do is for the next, say, 20 minutes, 15 minutes, is turn the call over and have both of you share whatever is in your heart for a newcomer, an experienced person in real estate, because we have a variety of people listening in tonight. And then at about 8:25, then we will go ahead and open up for questions. So is that okay with both of you?
That's fine with me.
Sounds good.
Awesome, awesome.
Ken?
So the floor is yours. Go ahead.
Ken, you want to go first?
Oh, boy. That'll make me go first. Okay, I'll take that. We have, I think, a good way to start this, because I know Don has some definitive thoughts on it. The unwritten motto of GaREIA, though we laugh about it and say it tongue-in-cheek somewhat, is that you will be a landlord. You just don't know it yet.
Yeah.
A lot of people who join the organization have heard national speakers, etc. Not saying anything about dear old Don, because I know he's had his hands in the trenches. But they listen to a lot of national speakers who talk about quickly flipping things. And while that's very possible, especially if you use techniques such as Don would tell you about, but most people aren't going to end up doing that. They are going to end up buying and holding. Hence, they will become landlords. Now, I know Don has a few thoughts about that, and I'd like to hear his thoughts about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's always nice to come into this business thinking that you're going to flip everything, and the infomercial that we all hear that you're going to come in, take a few classes, and then in the next 30 days you're going to be the next millionaire. Well, the truth of the matter is, you need both. You need cash today, and you need cash flow tomorrow, because anybody that knows anything about real estate that's been here long enough will tell you that you can't just flip, because especially if you want to be independently wealthy. Because if you just flip, the minute you stop, your income stops. So the true way to wealth and getting, as Kiyosaki would say, getting out of the rat race, you have to buy and hold properties. So the trick is being able to flip a few, hold a few, and to get to a critical mass of income from a rental portfolio.
I'm sorry, Don, you're going in and out.
Okay, sorry, I'm not in the greatest area.
That's a lot better.
I'm not in the greatest area in my house. I get very, very poor cell service, so I apologize. But I'm not sure what you heard, but I'll reiterate some of it. You need to buy and flip, and you need to buy and hold as a strategy, because otherwise you will not get out of the rat race. So I think at the boot camp you're going to see an enormous amount of different strategies. You're going to see a lot of buy and hold guys. You're going to see a lot of techniques that will allow you to flip, such as subject to, wholesaling, lease options. And there's different techniques that you will learn there. And I will tell you, the very first live seminar I went to was a GaREIA boot camp. And I came out of there it was like drinking from a fire hydrant, because back then I didn't even know how to spell real estate. So anybody that's thinking about a real estate as a career, whether it be flipping, whether it be holding, whether whatever the case is, you owe it to yourself to at least attend and get a better framework of where you want to take it and what you want to get out of it. That's my 2 cents.
Wendy, I'd like to add to what Don was saying there. He made a point and I think new people may just not pick up on it. He said that if you plan to do flipping, you have got to set up a machine, and that machine can't go 55 miles an hour. It's got to run down the freeway going between 75 and 90, because if you stop it, it's going to be a train wreck, or a car wreck, as the case may be, or a real estate wreck. So we got to keep that in mind. Now, Don also brings up one other good point. When you take the GaREIA boot camp, a lot of people are going to be there with a lot of very varying experiences. But the value of a GaREIA boot camp over a national boot camp or something like that is a difference in price. That's one thing. And the second more important difference is at GaREIA's boot camp, the people are local. And most people that come to those boot camps are going to be folks from the Atlanta metro area. So the people that are there will be telling you about conditions in the field within 50 to 100 miles of where you live. These are not out-of-town people, to include Don. Even though he's a national speaker, he knows the local Atlanta market. Back to you, Wendy.
Awesome. And, great point from both of you, because as somebody who came into this industry and focused on flipping, as you just said, Ken, I did that. I did so many flips that when that thing was going 100 miles a minute, and when the industry changed, it created, like you said, a train wreck, because you get used to X amount of dollars coming in. And now coming back to GaREIA, and one thing I can say that's great about GaREIA is that nobody is forcing you to hurry up and do a deal. Sometimes when you connect with gurus, you have a limited time, or somebody's behind you and, get that first deal done. At GaREIA, there's a family mindset and people really supporting. And the amount of information and experience that is available to you just really amazes me. So what can you say for somebody who's on this call? Because I know we have some people on this call that said they were opting in that are not in the Atlanta area. But for the people in the Atlanta area that may have not done their first deal yet, and maybe they feel a little bit afraid to take that first step, what would you encourage them to do as that, to really just get started?
Well, let me jump in there, Ken. I can tell you, here's what I tell people. You're going to make mistakes. Everybody should make mistakes. You just don't want to make big mistakes. Little mistakes is how people learn. When you make little mistakes, like you go on a call and you didn't pre-screen them well enough and you felt that it was a waste of time, okay, where maybe they wanted too much, maybe they were a want to sell versus a need to sell. And if you don't understand some of those terms I just talked about, that's a perfect reason to come to the boot camp, because you're going to understand all the lingo and all the terminology that we talk about, motivated sellers, want to details, how you get in the front door. Because anybody that's listening that's brand new at this, some of you may not even realize that someone will actually give you their house. They will actually sign over the deed. If you're in the right living room, meaning it's a motivated seller, they'll actually sign over the house to you right there on the spot. Now, whether you want to take it or not, that's a whole different story. But the best thing I could give any new person is, don't feel like you have to know everything before you jump in. You have to know enough that you don't make big mistakes. You have to know how to evaluate a deal, meaning, is it going to make you money? And what are your exit strategies and things? And that's what you're going to learn at the GaREIA boot camp. You've got a lot of experience standing up in front of the room telling you, I don't know what it is collectively as far as how many years experience we have at the front of the room. That'd probably be something neat to know, but you've got an enormous amount of experience, and you need to learn and take that experience and use it, because you're never going to know everything. So don't feel like you have to know everything before you jump into this, because you'll be taking seminars for the next 20 years. And you'll be a dog chasing 6 rabbits, is what I like to say. If you don't jump in and stay focused and take action on something, you'll be a dog chasing 6 rabbits and you won't catch anything. So stay focused, and take action. Sorry, that's
Wendy, you made a point there that there were some people who were not necessarily in the Atlanta metro area who might take that boot camp. Was that correct?
Yes,
Well, here goes the advantage. Just taking my cue here again from Don. The principles that we talk about and the details that we're going to go through would be applicable, that methodology would be valid anywhere in this continental United States. And Don is living proof of that because he goes around the nation and teaches those principles. So while there may be a twist or two in a given area, you will still, if you follow the principles that come out of the speaker's mouths and the stuff that's in writing in a notebook that you're going to get right there at the boot camp, if you apply those principles, they are good nationwide. The only advantage to the Atlanta metro area and our particular boot camp is that we know that to be a fact. You will need to verify that to be a fact if you were in a different area, even as short a distance as Macon, Georgia. That's still a slightly different market. But if you apply the principle that you hear from those instructors, you will still be just as successful. Thank you, Wendy.
Thank you so much. And the goal tonight is to get people to take that step forward. So let's speak to the people who say, you know, I put this on my New Year's resolution and I really want to make this happen. I thought maybe I was going to use my tax return, or I don't have the best credit. How do I get started if I have very little money and not the best credit?
Is that a question?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Well, I can take this and then turn it over to Ken. You can. I tell this to every single person I meet. Real estate is probably one of the only businesses you can start with virtually no money and create anything that your mind can imagine as far as income. Now, don't get me wrong, it does help to have money, and it does help to have credit. But you don't need either one of them. Of the 300 homes I bought and sold in the last 17 years, not one of them I've gone down to the bank and got a loan on. Not one of them, I shouldn't say not one, but 99% of them I've not used any of my money on. So, you know, I have rental properties that I use other people's money. And I borrow money from individuals and pay them 7-8% interest rate, better than what I could get at the bank. And I don't have to jump through the hoops. So all of this is very possible. But one of the things that you will see at this boot camp versus a lot of other what I would call national events, the national events are going to tell you, here, buy my course, take it home, put it under your pillow, and in 30 days, you're going to have a big wad of cash in your bank account with very little effort. The truth of the matter is, I will tell you, I buy 3-4 houses a month. I literally spend maybe 4 to 5 hours a week doing that. But I've also been doing this for 17 years, and I have systems that I haven't always been this way. There were times when I've worked 50, 60 hours a week to get this thing off the ground, because when you don't have the systems in place and you don't have the education and the experience, things become harder. As somebody once told me, if you want to be a millionaire, who should you hang around? So the thing absolutely. So the thing I tell people is, if you want to be a real estate investor, who should you hang around? Because there's going to be a lot of people out there that tell you, you can't do that, people will never do that, that's illegal, all this stuff. I mean, there'll be a ton of people, and there'll be lots of people in your life giving you advice. And the thing I would say is, who you should listen to is, if the person giving you advice on real estate doesn't even own their own home, then you probably should listen to somebody else. And sometimes it may be family members, and they think that they're trying to do the best thing. But if I listened to family members when I first started, I wouldn't be in this business. So it's a business that you can literally start off with very little money, as long as you have a little bit of time, and grow it to whatever you can imagine. So, Wendy?
And Ken, is there anything you wanted to add to that? Don, you that was an awesome answer. We appreciate that.
I can give you the dingbat version of what Don said. If the deal is good enough, money is the least of your worries. And when you are at that boot camp, you will run into people who will give you all of the necessary information you need at $500 versus $5,000 to allow you to form the team that it takes, where money is the least of your worries, where technical abilities are the least of your worries. The entire concept is very easy to follow, and it's at a very cheap price. And I guarantee you, because GaREIA and the boot camps are small, you don't have to wonder in a big old crowd to hold up your hand to get an answer. It's such a close-knit community, as Wendy was describing earlier, that if you are slightly shy, you can grab the instructor in the corner and say, I have the following situation. What is the answer? If you want to ask questions in the class, that's available too. But that's the advantage of the close-knit community and the smaller boot camps, because I think when Don and I and all were around, GaREIA was a gigantic organization, and people got lost in the crowd. Well, that's unnecessary now. You can get an answer to your question. You can get help. And one thing I'd like to point out, because I know it's about time for us to shut up, during a boot camp such as this, besides being cheap, you just can't beat that. The fact that you can ask somebody, one of the instructors or another person who's well acquainted with a certain aspect, and you don't have to pay for that advice. They will just tell you. They may even come to your project and look at it with you, free of charge. You can't get that kind of stuff at a national boot camp. I'm off my soapbox, Wendy.
Well, I will say this, Ken. I don't know if you remember this, but do you remember when I first started, my very first rehab, you came out?
Oh, yes. I do remember it.
He told me, don't buy that house. That's what he told me. And I bought it anyways. And I don't remember the gentleman that was with you that at the time, but I thought that I knew enough. And that turned out to be the absolute most expensive seminar I ever went to in my life, because everything you could say when it comes to a rehab not to do, if you put on a piece of paper what not to do, I checked every single one of those. I paid too much for the house. I got the wrong contractor. I ended up changing the contractor from 3 jaws to hourly to, it was a mess. And the reason I'm even saying this is, when you seek the advice of the elders, and when they give you that advice, take it, because especially if you're brand new, it could be the best advice you were ever given. So that deal for me will go down in history for me as one of the most expensive seminars I ever went to. But I learned a lot.
And you implemented a lot. That's the great thing, because you heard information and you took action, and look where it got you today. So that's an awesome thing.
Yeah, Ken gave me a lot of information way back when. And, after the fact, I looked back and said, he was right. It's kind of like parents and their children. I have 3 children. My oldest is 22, my youngest is 12. And my older 2, I'm getting smarter as they're getting older, and I'm not as smart as my 12-year-old thinks I am. So my 12-year-old, I'm getting dumber for my 12-year-old. I'm getting smarter for my 22-year-old. So, experience speaks volumes.
Well, we appreciate both of your experience. And again, the same thing, Don DeRosa, the fact that you sat on the board as a president just shows your commitment and the success you want to give to other people. As I'm sitting now as the marketing director, you put in a lot of time and effort, but it's well worth it when you see other people having success or lifestyles being changed. And so I can only imagine, as a board president, the kind of effort both of you put in, and we get to reap from that as you guys come to the boot camp and hang out at GaREIA. But I happen to know that something is happening this Monday. Do you want to share how people can get a lot closer and some more information this Monday about real estate investing?
Me?
Yes.
Sure, you
can. What's happening Monday? I don't even know.
We have moved our general meeting.
Oh, the general meeting moved. That's right. The general meeting moved. Okay. I was like, what's happening Monday? Yes, the general meeting has moved because of weather.
Yes, apparently we didn't get the message. Okay.
Here's the thing I'll tell everybody. If you're thinking about, I don't care whether you're thinking about making an extra $5,000 a year or quitting your job and making $200, $250 a year or more, it starts with a single step. And Georgia, if you've never done real estate at all, or you've always thought about it and you've always wanted to do something, I can't think of a better place to start. You owe it to yourself and to your family if that's the lifestyle that you want, and you want to get out of that race, you want to get out of that job, or you want to take that vacation that you can't seem to get because you can't afford it, or buy that new car or whatever. You owe it to yourself to at least go check it out, because I promise you it'll change your life.
And anything you wanted to add, Ken, before we go ahead and open up for questions?
I think it's time for questions.
Awesome. So, Karen, if you can please unmute us and let's see if...
Man, I thought we supposed to been doing something.
Hey, Wendy, can I just make an announcement? If you've got
yes, please.
Your mic is unmuted or your phone is unmuted, please mute your phone, because your background noise is anyways, go ahead.
The person with all the background noise, if you could please mute your phone out by pressing *6. You'll be able to hear us, but we won't be able to hear the information in the back. Okay, so I think we're good now.
Excellent.
There we go.
Do we have any questions from the participants on the call tonight?
Well, let me start by saying this before anyone starts asking questions. As you're sitting there, I want you to say to yourself, do I know everything there is to go out and make as much money in real estate as possible? Is there anything I'm afraid of? Because fear stops everybody in their tracks. And we get up here all night long but if you don't tell us what your fears are, we can't fix it. So what's stopping you from getting started in real estate or getting more deals or getting to that next level?
I have a question, please.
Yep.
Yes.
Yes, I'm interested in. I've done a few flips, and I'm interested in doing more and increasing my activity. But I've kind of become of the opinion that I know that, and I understand what you said, that you've completed transactions with none of your own money. But is that through either a private lender or hard money lenders that you've used to accomplish that?
That's a good question. There are some deals where I haven't used anybody's money. For example, I'll give you an example. I just put, actually I'm closing on Wednesday, 2 houses, both of which I put under contract. I just put it under contract. And then I went and I marketed that contract to someone else, someone that has cash that they want to spend on it. And I found them, and they ended up paying $20,000 more on each of those homes than basically I made $20,000, and I didn't touch them. I put it under contract and sold them the contract. Now, there's different techniques which you'll learn at the boot camp, like an assignment, for example. I do a double close where I use my seller's money to fund my buying purchase, which again you will learn there. But for all intents and purposes, I made $40,000 in less than a month,
right?
And didn't bring a dime of my money to the table.
I see. So primarily, you are then in fact wholesaling properties as opposed to
that is a wholesale.
Properties.
Yes, those two. That example is a wholesale. But I've also used subject to. I've also bought properties subject to. I just put one under contract the other day. The lady, it's not a grand slam by any stretch of the imagination, but there's $20,000 on the back end. She's perfectly current. She's not behind, and I put it. I'm going to buy it, take it over subject to. Now, in that particular case, I used private funds to purchase it and put paint and carpet in it, and some holding costs. So it's less than $5,000, and I used a private individual for that.
Okay.
Those are. I mean, I could give you multiple examples,
right?
But those are just a couple.
Can I? I don't mean to dominate the time from the other participants, but may I give you a scenario and get your opinion of it?
Sure.
All right. Again, there have been several properties that I have flipped and made a decent return on each of them, and I've been fortunate and been blessed in many ways where I haven't been hurt by either one of them to this point.
Now, when you say flipped, you mean buy it, fix it up,
and resell,
and then sell it retail.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And I too, though, am of the opinion that I would need to have access to ready funds to continue doing that. Now, the scenario that I want to present to you is that if I can continue to flip properties and to continue to put monies into this coffer, building a fund to ultimately eliminate the need for seeking private lenders or hard money lenders as I had used, I do and have been able to put together a pretty nice piece of change to be able to hold a property ultimately and use the equity in that property to fund it to ultimately eliminate the need for seeking funding. What thoughts would you have in that regard as a means of eliminating the need having to go looking for cash to be able to do 3 or 4 deals a year? Basically, is what I'm looking to accomplish.
I'm a huge use other people's money guy. Very rarely do I use my funds for anything. Every so often I'll buy a property, but with my own money. But there's no need. If I can borrow funds 9-10%, I'm a private individual. There's no need. But again, everyone is different. You know, some people like to pay their, like, I'm a pretty conservative investor. I don't mess with my own home. I don't take equity out of my home.
Right.
You know,
Same here.
You know, I pay my house off. Whereas some people will say, you know, that money that's sitting in your home is just sitting there
doing nothing,
being wasted. Well, that's not my opinion. You know.
Right. I agree.
We see where that got some people several years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't ever want to be in that position. So,
I understand.
Ken, what's your?
Mm-hmm. You've taken the words out of my mouth. I am not a great believer in leveraging everything that you have on the face of this earth. Nothing beats. Let's put it like this. I went on a minor maintenance job one day, and we were talking about the recession and how people were still having trouble. And I know they're having trouble because my tenants are having trouble. But the bottom line remains that if your house is not paid for, the one that's covering your personal head, and your car isn't paid for, you got a problem. The other thing about super leverage of every single thing that you have on earth is obviously that you stay in a state of worry and you make bad business decisions because you know that if you don't, your house that covers your head might be taken from you.
Yes.
So nothing beats what you have alluded to in your dissection of your personal issue there. You should ultimately have houses and cars that are paid for. Then you can semi-enjoy retirement. There will always be challenges, but you can't have a threat of foreclosure or whatever on your personal home.
Absolutely, I agree.
You
And
keep all that other stuff separate, and if they want to come get that, they can have it.
Yes, I agree. And, I agree with what you're saying. And my personal home, yes, I've been one blessed individual. I've had some good successes over the years in work and in earning a living. So my personal home is paid for. My automobiles are paid for, and the funds that I was alluding to earlier that I used prior to seeking out these private lenders were funds that I rolled over into a self-directed IRA because I figured I could do better with it than what Bank of America was doing.
Sure,
and
absolutely.
I use real estate as a vehicle for increasing that.
Absolutely, and I agree 110% with that. You know, there's all kinds of things you can do with your IRA, though. ATMs, for example. I mean, there's different things you can do other than real estate, although real estate can give you the biggest bang for your dollar. But my point, you asked me about leverage versus private money versus hard money. I don't use many hard money lenders, but I do use an enormous amount of private money. Now, what I'll do is I'll buy 3 or 4 houses with private money, and one of those may be a rental. And let's say it's a $40,000 or a $30,000 rental that I just bought, and I bought it with private funds. Well, I went and I sold 3 houses, and I made $40,000-$50,000 on those 3 houses. I'll take half of that those funds that I just brought in, and I'll pay that private lender. I'll pay half of that off.
Yes.
The next time I do it again, I'll pay it off. So then now I'll have a free and clear house, not using any of my money still. Well, I shouldn't say that because it would have been my profits coming back from a couple of those deals. But it's not money that I'm using to live on. And now I've got a free and clear rental that's paying me $800-$900 a month, and that just puts me that much closer to the number I need to hit to be, you know.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Victor Bomi, and my question is alluding to wholesaling. You know, when it comes to wholesaling, you know, you mentioned systems on the call. I actually am a big believer in systems and, utilizing the latest softwares to give you a competitive edge. So what would you say are some of the best tools out there right now that we could utilize to find not only sellers but buyers, for our deals as well?
Repeat that question. What systems are?
My question basically, you mentioned that you just put, 2 deals under contract, I guess a couple of weeks ago or recently. What are you finding the most success with, in your market, or if you're in the Atlanta market, as far as, finding the deals? What types of strategy are you utilizing or finding the best results with, basically, to find your sellers and buyers for your deals when it comes to the wholesaling niche of real estate investing?
Well, if you're asking me that question, I'm going to tell you the best deals I have going on probably in the last 2 years have all been the kind I mentioned before, where I put it under contract, and usually my buyers are right now at least. Probably 80% of them are hedge funds. They're buying.
Can I ask you a question about that?
Yeah.
All right. Now, I've worked with the hedge funds, and I've noticed that they all have a particular criteria. Most of their criteria is 1980 or newer. Now, did you first of all go?
That's not true. Then you're. That's not true, because you got the wrong hedge fund then.
Okay.
Because some hedge funds will be 1980 or newer, but the majority of them that I've been working with, they don't. It doesn't matter to them. They're looking for a cap rate. They're looking for like a 15% cap rate is the main number that they're looking for, and as long as it fits that cap rate, and it has to fit some other criteria, but for the most part, it has to be turnkey. It has to be Section 8. And it has to be a 15% cap rate. Once you find it, you can turn those deals over pretty easily and for top dollar.
Yeah, exactly. And I've found some success doing that as well. I guess my next question would be, when it comes to HUD homes and REOs, do you have any types of suggestions on, when you want to get started, investing or, acquiring HUD homes and REOs, where do we start? Obviously, if you're not licensed, you can get an agent to help you with that process. Are there any tips or advice, if you have experience in that niche, that you could possibly give to us on how to successfully, acquire those types of homes? And then, the second part of it is the exit strategy on, how do we close, double close? I know we can't assign those homes, but, just kind of walk me through, some types of basic tips for that process.
I want to be homes or rarely do I have to go in down home.
Don, you're going in and out.
Can you hear me?
Now, much better, yes.
Okay. I said I'm going to have to pass on that one and send it over to Ken, because I've only ever bought one home, and I've only ever bought, a handful of REOs, but I generally don't do that. My niche is private sellers.
Okay.
So Ken,
I'd love to give you a wonderful answer to that, but you have actually answered your own question in that most of the people who are successful in that arena either have a real estate license or they know a darn good real estate agent. And there will be several of them at the boot camp.
And what I'd like to interject, gentlemen, is to share that, Victor, you might want to make it a priority to be at the general meeting this Monday, because we're going to have a panel of speakers that can address that question. So I'd encourage you to come out this Monday. You can go ahead and have you been to the general meetings before?
I have not yet.
Okay, so I would encourage you to come out. You're going to get to meet the two gentlemen that hopefully at least one of them will be there, but definitely this Monday there's going to be a panel. You can ask as many questions as you want, and you will definitely have more than one person with the experience to answer it. If you go to GaREIA.org, www.GaREIA.org, you can get all the information, but we are at the Wyndham Hotel off 285 in Powers Ferry this Monday. Try to come out, as close to 6:30, 7 o'clock, and you can network and get to meet some people, but we encourage you to come out. As you heard Don DeRosa say earlier, when you're in the network and you're hanging out with real estate investors, you're going to learn so much more and get the courage to just do the things you're asking. What we'd like to do at this point, though, because we had some great questions tonight, you got a lot of great content, is to allow the two speakers to go ahead and close out, because we did promise everybody we would keep it at around 30 minutes, but we had some great information, so we ran a little bit longer. So at this point, if there's any other question that's on the call tonight, you can feel free to call the office. We'll be happy to answer it, but I really encourage you to just come out on Monday. And at this point, Mr. Ken Jordan, if you can share your last closing sentences, and we'll do the same with Don DeRosa. Please just share, and then we'll close out.
Well, it may sound as if I'm being redundant, but I'll say the same thing. The value of the GaREIA Boot Camp is that it is local. You're going to have local people there who know the local market. If you happen to be out of town, you've just got to hone in on the principles that we're trying to teach. It might help you to know that all of the teachers at the boot camp are volunteers. We are not paid a single dime to teach you. This is information that we give free of charge because we want good business partners. That's our only advantage. You said make it short. That's my short one.
Thank you, sir. And Mr. Don DeRosa?
Well, my closing remarks is I'm going to be teaching people how to get rid of properties on selling. I believe it's still the same as the last one, right? Wendy, do you know?
Yes.
I'm assuming I'm teaching selling.
I'm looking at the agenda.
Okay. I'm going to be teaching people how to get rid of their properties, how to get rid of it in this market. But I'll be happy to answer any questions anyone has about anything, whether it be in buying, creative finance, anything there is. But the closing statement I have is, if you are buying all the properties you need and you're doing everything that you feel you want to, then this is not for you. But if you have any hiccups, if you're not getting the money that you want, if you're not getting the deals that you want, if you're not marketing and your phone's not ringing the way it should be ringing, or you're not buying as many, you're not being as creative as you would like, then you owe it to yourself, as I said, to come to the GaREIA Boot Camp and spend a few days with us there, and I promise you will leave there a much more well-rounded investor. I have yet to go to any of these types of events like this and not learn anything. And even to this day, I will go and I will learn something when I'm there, and I'm an instructor. So it's important that you understand that the more money you make, the more educated you are, the more money you will make. That's just the way this business is. So if you want to make money and you want to make more money, then education is paramount. So do yourself a favor. Go ahead.
Wendy, one other point I'd like to bring to everybody's attention is that for those people who are on the fence that might be listening at this broadcast, the boot camp is arranged as such that you don't have to call in sick or tell any form of lie in order to attend. We have finally, after many years of doing this, figured out that you can come at night after work. We don't even start until 7 o'clock in the afternoon on Thursdays and Fridays. So come from work, come straight to the boot camp. You don't need to bring a pen or paper or anything else. Just show up. Now, Saturday and Sunday is a different ball game. That's all day. That's all day in the field. We're going to touch and feel things and say it costs this and it costs that to fix such and such and such. The rooms need to be rearranged. You know what? That costs too much to fix, and you might as well just leave that house where it is.
Mm-hmm.
So don't let the schedule stop you from having a very inexpensive experience and get the same value as if you would get from a $4,000 or $5,000 boot camp. And as Don put it, you know, you're going to stick the book under your head somewhere there and expect to get it by osmosis. This is a touching and feeling thing. All right, Wendy, I'm through. I'm off my soapbox.
Well, there you heard it, everybody. I just, again, want to reiterate that this Monday you want to come out to the general meeting, and not only will you hear presenters sharing some of this content, you can ask questions. It's very informal, but you also will get to hear from some of the boot camp attendees that and what they've been able to accomplish since the last boot camp. And it's not going to be about us trying to sell you on the boot camp. It's about answering your questions and hearing from a panel of experienced speakers. So we also encourage you to please go to the website, georgearea.org, and you can see a lot of the upcoming events. And, you know, we encourage you to also follow us on Facebook, same George Area on Facebook, and we'll be happy to answer questions there too. Tonight, we want to give it back to our presenters. Awesome job. As they said, they don't get paid to do this. They're doing it out of the love and really seeing people have success in real estate. So past presidents, both Ken Jordan and Don DeRosa, we really appreciate you, and thank you for all the information tonight, and definitely look forward to seeing you at the boot camp. And everybody else that made it on the call tonight, we really appreciate you. And Karen, we thank you also, and appreciate everything that you did on the call. With that being said, everybody, have a great night, and we hope to see you on Monday. Talk to you soon.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
See you later,
Bye-bye.
Wendy.
Thank you, Wendy.
Bye-bye.
Bye.